Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with global.media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne or rum.
Whose music is that?
Of course it's mine.
It's yours. Okay, fine. No, given that it's your show, you're allowed to play music as you wish. Totally up to you.
It's so hard for
how
me to
are
be
you
without
today?
music.
You know, it's a good song as well. I think I like songs like that. I don't know. I couldn't tell you which song it is, but I like the way the songs are composed in that sense.
Well, they're actually songs, you know.
No, it sounds good. It sounds good. So I say, welcome, my friend.
Yes.
Go. Yeah, let's start talking to our friend. So welcome all of you. It's Wednesday. Dr. Yvonne's here. I'm here. Mr. Calm is here as well. So let's party, right? Let's do what we came to do. I said party. Of course, I understand our topic is always serious, but we are on the other side, Dr. Yvonne, right? We are talking about.
We're on the other side now. We are on the other side. We have defined what that type of relationship is with everyone that we interact with and how it can affect us in obviously a negative way. But we're on the other side now. The whole thing is everyone knows it's there. Once we start dealing with it, how do we reintroduce ourselves to ourselves? Well, forgive me, I have to suck on candy. My mouth is very dry. The first thing, and I think the thing you have to always do, is start from within. I know you hear that a lot. I know a lot of people say, oh, self-love, self-love. I mean, I'm one of those people. But in order to be introspective, you really have to be honest with yourself. And that's part of what the journey of going through Dark Night of the Soul is. It is really speaking to yourself, really understanding yourself, and getting to know yourself again. Not the self that was broken down or answered to any given name or allowed people to walk over you or not understanding your worth or knowing your worth. I mean, that's always going to be hard. I really know that. Okay. And especially when you're not a gatekeeper and you really want to see other people win. The other part of it is as you go in, identify what you are, what your strengths, what your weaknesses are. How do you accomplish a better outcome? And not looking at yourself as a failure just because you went through this horrific time. So yeah, we're talking about what is happening on the other side and how wonderfully resilient you can become without, maintaining a status quo of a victim. We're out of that phase now. So yes, Annie, we're on the other side.
So I guess on the other side, we'll have to somehow find or rediscover ourselves, right?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, Olivia. I see you that you're here. I think Dr. Yvonne, we seem to have a clash. I don't know why. Okay, one of us has to end our mics when the other one's talking. So, Christy, welcome. Always great to have you here, my friend. You're a superstar. Nathaniel, welcome, all of you. Then, my friends, if you're here, say hello. Tell us where you're joining us from. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So you can put your thoughts in the comments, or you can click on the link at the top of the comments page. Link to join the studio is there. If you want to send you the link directly to your DM, I can do that too. So just put in the chat here. Any link, please. Hopefully I'll see it and send it to you, right? But still, we say, well, I appreciate you. But Dr. Yvonne's saying, we say following abuse. I don't know. I don't know whether I'm saying we've escaped or we've managed to find a way to reduce the abuse to, and somehow, I think we have to find a way to end the abuse, right? If that's escaping, if that's learning, if that's finding a way to continue to stay in space. As long as the abuse is not happening anymore, then we can begin to find ourselves again, right?
Well, you find yourself, yes, but it's more than finding yourself. It's being reintroduced. It's almost like a rebirth because people are expecting that side of you which they grew to know because you had to adapt in whatever environment it is. But when you start really being authentic and being true to yourself and all of that, it's because you've delved deep enough inside yourself to say, you know what? I'm worth the truth. I'm worth the work. I'm not your doormat. I know what I need to do in order to move forward in the life that I choose to create for myself. And I love me while I'm doing all those great, wonderful things that I should have always done, but I had to go through this shit first. Everyone has a story because everyone has a life. So it's how you pick up. And usually it happens to us, I would think, 50 plus, or maybe there's some people it happens to before. For me, my wake up started, when I hit that 50. So for me, it became a part of growth that no one ever told me about. It's kind of like you go through life and everyone sort of knows what's going to happen, right? You're going to grow up, you're going to go to school, you're going to create a family, you're going to work real hard, you're going to buy a house. There's a plan, right? There's a map. But not everybody's life has to fit that map. And when you think outside the box and begin to understand and accept who you really are, despite those things around you, that's when you can really be your authentic self. And part of being your authentic self is understanding that whatever I went through, I couldn't be who I really am today if I didn't go through that. Not that I'd go through that again, but now here we are. And how much do I truly love myself? And how is that going to make a difference in my life as well as others? Because the other thing is selfishness. We look at when we look at that word selfish, we are like, oh my God, I don't want to be selfish. I want to please everybody. I want to do this. No. You have to learn how to be a little selfish with yourself. And that's part of loving yourself.
I think selfishness is a big word for it. It is accepting that you have to give yourself some grace, right? And you have to be your biggest cheerleader, your biggest fan. I don't think that's selfish. I think that's just being ourselves. That's being our real selves. It's much better to be our biggest fan and to love ourselves than to rely on others to give us that sense, that positive sense of who we are. It's much more natural for us to do it for ourselves, and those who learn to do it, and I guess do it in full faith of who we are. They're the ones who have peace of mind ultimately, and the joy in their hearts to go and do what they want to do. Really, for me, it's a way of thinking. It's a way of being. it works. Yeah, so I do understand the consequence of abuse, the way abuse can strip us of who we are. I think that's pretty evident, right?
Yeah. Well, it's meant to do that.
Hmm.
That's the whole, I mean, for everything, there is a mission. And unfortunately, it's meant to do that. But it's also meant that you are entitled to have such a quality of life that other things shouldn't stop it. So whatever your desires are, you should be able to get those desires. I'm not saying anything like crazy or wild. I'm saying just have quiet entitlement to your life and be able to give back, because I think giving back is major.
Hmm.
I think that's major, but we have to be smart when giving back too. Because sometimes we could think we're giving back and we're just getting used. Um, so, with everything comes precaution, but when you really start being your authentic self after dealing with different types of abuses and abusers, for me, it was like an awakening. And I know that that word awakening or awoke or whatever the hell that other guy decided was a bad word. It's not a bad word to me because I really believe that through all of that indoctrination, I was walking around with my eyes closed. I mean, outwardly, you're together. You have to make a living, you have to work, you have to do all those things. But the relationships that matter to you the most, whether it's your job or your parent or your spouse or your child, and when that is damaged and broken and one party is out there left hanging to dry and still have to be productive, this is a hard thing in our society, in our lives. And not everybody goes through this now. Can't say that everyone goes through, everyone has a life, everything is different. But if you had to go through these things, at some point you have to be truthful, faithful to yourself, loyal to yourself, love yourself enough to call, a spade, and be able to move on and be happy, giving back, living a full life, and hopefully finding the right love of your life. All of these things matter. So uh, that's my take on it. Mr. Calm, what's your take on it?
It's pretty much in line with what you're saying.
A bit louder if you don't mind. A bit louder, please.
It's in line with what you're saying.
Excellent.
There is, in everything you do, everything that you do, you're producing a piece of art. You're the artist with a paintbrush, and what you're doing is your paintbrush, your canvas is the universe, and you're drawing it. What kind of a universe would you like to live in? Is all dependent on your imagination. What you produce in your imagination, you paint. If you like what you see, and that includes yourself, that's including you, then you continue painting. You don't erase it, just continue. If you don't like what you see, what you're supposed to do is erase it. But if you continue, what will be the consequences of that? If you don't erase and redraw in accordance to how you actually want to be, how I actually want, I want to find peace in my universe. So I'm drawing things in a manner in which I can find peace. That means relationships are going to be friendly, things that I want or do not want, I can acquire or not acquire with ease, not much difficulty. Sometimes there will be some difficulty. I'm not so sure how that gets into it, but I have to overcome it in order to get my peace. I have to, because that's what I want. And you're right. If other people who are drawing their universes come and interfere with yours and you clash, that means that your painting is going to have some areas that are not so good and you want to redraw them. Don't just leave them alone. Actually, actually be motivated to redraw and change the scenarios. Change them to what you want them to be like. Take responsibility. Be active in that responsibility. So like Dr. Yvonne has said, I am in line. I do feel that I am in line with what she is talking about. And if she thinks I am not, she will let me know right away. There was something that she told me personally a while back. She asked me to every day look at my nakedness in the mirror and see myself, my flaws, and see the flaws that are faulty, see the ones that are not so faulty, see the bits and the parts that are good about myself. Get to know them, get to love them, get to mend them, identify them. At least you will know every morning, every day, morning or night, whenever it is that you take a look at yourself, in your nakedness, this is who you are. Can you redraw yourself and attempt to do that every day? I think I'm doing that. And I really thank her for that impression because it has elevated my mind and elevated my universe in a manner that allows me to find peace within myself and without myself. Thanks.
Yeah, we like that.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for saying that. I didn't know um, that it helped you that way. So you have to be consistent. And what that shows me is that you were consistent and it helped you. And that makes me very happy. Very happy. You know, they say you can't teach something if you haven't been there yourself. And they're very right. Because some of us even have like body dysmorphia, or, you know, maybe we just don't even like ourselves. But part of loving yourself and going internal is speaking the wonderful stuff over your life. Um, you know, when you pour into other people, you forget to pour into yourself. And that's another part of going internally. But you know what? Thank you. And I'm supposed to say Mr. Khan, but thank you, Michael. That was so sweet. And it elevated me on so many levels you just will never know, honestly. Okay, I'm done gushing. Your turn, Annie. What is anyone saying in the chat? Anyone saying anything?
Our amazing friends are here. So Dr. Lisa, Menopause Genius, is here. So, Nathaniel says you have to know your worth. That's so true, right? I think that's in line with what Michael's saying. So welcome, Linda. How you doing? Our friends are here, so I can relax now. So Linda's here, Sharon Rose is here. All of you are here, my friends. So that cheers me up. Sharon Rose says, facing our shadow self is the first step in reclaiming our fractured soul bits after being entangled with a narcissist. Isn't that so true, right? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sharon Rose. I know you're going to be sharing genius with us as you always do. Says the wounds are where the light enters. Ooh, I like that. I do like it. I like a good quote, by the way. So I'm writing a book of quotes, so I might steal that one, Sharon Rose. I might just put that in my book. I don't know when the book's going to come out, so it'll be out eventually, right? So, and Nathaniel says you can't settle for anything that you don't agree with. I think part of I mean, Dr. Yvonne asked me today, how are you? I'm like, I'm living the dream because I do what I like. I do what I enjoy. I enjoy what I do. I've been trying to live in that alignment, Nathaniel. I think that's our calling for all of us. We have to find that happy place, no matter what we're doing. So I truly believe that's what. If we can't do that, then we're letting ourselves down. But of course, I know it's not easy, but we have to find that place, right? Yeah, Remy is genius. And I would say I will steal that quote, Sharon Rose. I'm gonna copy and paste it now. Don't say Yvonne, talk to us. Talk to us. So the other people are here, by the way. Kyan is here. How are you doing, Kyan? And the amazing identity disruptor in chief, Mr. Shawn Michael is here as well. I can see them on my LinkedIn. I can't see them on my StreamYard yet. Welcome, all of you. So I give the mic back to you, Dr. Yvonne.
I want to hear from other people exactly when they started feeling that they were actually on the other side. For me, it was in 2017. Part of my story, and obviously it's going to be in the book, is that, I got sick. I fell ill in 2009, but my world was already crumbling. It really was. The saving grace in my life up to that point and beyond were my. Okay, I don't know what's going on with the phone. Hopefully it won't die. If it does, I apologize. But anyway, it was my kids. But in 2017, I think I reached my lowest of lows. I always talk about a structure and the very lowest floor, which would be the basement. And as you graduate through, your ascension, you go higher and higher and higher and higher till you break through the roof, whatever that is. That's where you want to vibe, right? And so I was at the lowest of lows in 2017. And I began to realize a lot of things. And they weren't nice things. And then by 2019, I had found out that everything I thought about, my substantial marriage and uh, other family things, they were just a lie. And from that bottom, there's nowhere else but up. um I wasn't a pretty sight to look at. I didn't think so. Hence the mirror exercise, affirmations. These are all things that I did in order to come where I am now. But see, this version of me, I was that when I was in my 20s. I was conquering the world, in LA when I was in my 20s. And I didn't live in Hollywood. I lived in Beverly Hills. I lived well. I worked very hard, but I worked hard because I wanted a certain lifestyle. And all of a sudden, to find yourself in the basement not recognizing yourself, not recognizing your worth, not recognizing how hard you actually work. No one gave me anything. So why did I dislike myself so much that I would allow other people, no matter what they are in my life, discretionary or not, do this to me and I allow it? When did pleasing other people become more important than pleasing myself? And when did I become so low that I didn't take the time to actually look after myself? And 2019, my dad died. And there had been some things going on, and I didn't know. I was kept out of so many things. And, then just to be brought back in and know that I could have prolonged his life at least for 5 or 10 more years, and he could have lived comfortably, to just have a few days with him and then him say to you, right before he transitions over, they've already killed me. Let me go. I'm tired. Let me go. All of these things, amount to ascension. Because for me, it was a perilous journey. So when you get to the point of where you're creating a ritual for yourself, where you're still giving the love that you need to give to your children and to those significant others, and to really restore whatever relationship it has been that has been destroyed, unless it just can't be restored. But you don't start a relationship to end it. And that might sound old school, but those are the facts. Beyond things that are unreasonable, you don't marry to divorce. You don't have a baby, so you have no contact with them. All of these things, there's a reason for everything you do. So hopefully things can be healed, but it starts with healing yourself. So the time that you were unseen, you were not important, the disloyalty, the 10 knives in the back, the lies, whatever they were, the fact that they wouldn't, you're working and they're piling work down on you and they're not willing to pay you, but that you can do better, but you're too scared to step out. What's going to be the final straw? All these things just kind of come to the center, and you kind of decide, you know what? I do love myself more. My affirmations have changed from, oh my God, I'm so downtrodden, I have nowhere to go, to, hey, money likes me. Money's attracted to me. Love likes me. Love is attracted to me. Sunshine loves me. Sunshine's attracted to me. Joy loves me. Joy's attracted to me. When you start making yourself the center of your universe and pouring into yourself and being a little selfish and not selfless, anything is possible. You then really are creating your universe, your world, and how you see it. Okay, so now I've spoken enough. Who are we going to hear from next?
I mute myself and laugh at the same time, right? As Kayan says, you're the queen ninja of life, Dr. Yvonne. She is that, my friend. She definitely is that.
Annie?
Yes, you can hear me or you can't hear me?
What are we reading?
Okay, you can't see the screen either. You might have to restart your device. That's probably the best thing I
I
can think
think
of.
we've lost people.
No, we've lost you. You're here. We can hear you, but we can't see you. And also, we can't. Well, you can't see us either. You might have to restart your device and come back. That's what you thought. Sharon Rose, I love that. The mirror doesn't lie. When we can't look at self, it is because we have abandoned ourselves. and we know it at soul level. We indeed, I think, being honest with ourselves. Now, that's what I say. Life's about being honest and being happy with that honesty, being happy with what we see. You know, every day I do stand in front of my mirrors and tell myself how beautiful I look. Even though, even what Jay says, despite what Jay says, the person in the mirror has value, has size. I definitely have size, Jay. Yeah, I'm not a small guy, right? And I've got shape. Oh, I don't know what the shape is. I haven't know. Is round a shape? Well, okay, you know. And the unsightly bits and all, says Jay. Unsightly bits. I just love me, right? I love me. I love my life. I love my happiness. So when I said, but it does take doing, right? You know, it doesn't happen naturally by itself. I think we have to work hard at loving ourselves, and you know, but as I say, everyone say, this is where it all starts. You know, without that self-love, which some people think, you know, may think is selfish, but I think, you know, without that self-love, we're going nowhere. So it's not selfish. You know, if we don't look after ourselves, then what's gonna become of us? There'll be nothing left of us, right? No, that's a bit crazy. I'm doing a show later on. So my event tonight in my Being Your Authentic Self and Business room is looking at the empaths, and empaths tend to be the ones who are exploited in domestic violence. I guess domestic violence relationships. So that's, you know, with partners or even with family members, right? You know, I think, you know, we do have to learn to appreciate who we are and give ourselves the time and the space to find our joy. That's not a crime. That's not selfish. You know, if we don't do it, who's going to do it, right? Who's going to do it for us? No one's going to do it for us. You know, but we have to truly love ourselves. Miss Alavine, how are you doing?
Hello, everyone. I am good. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. And what
Excellent.
about you?
I'm too. Every day is a good day for me, right? I mean, that's sincere. Every day is a good day. You know, so
Oh,
I've got a new client today. It's an interesting new book I have to work on. So, you know, that cheers me up. You know, so definitely, you know, so I like doing what I do. I love what I do. I get to live the life of any. Yay! You know, I remember living the life of other people when I used to work, you know, for a decent sized company a few years ago, and I hated every day. It's so nice to be there on the other side now, where I truly just love. I love me. I love life. I love, you know. But you know, let's say it took a while to find me.
mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's what I find rather amazing. You know, how are you? You know, how's your day on your magic island?
So, in my island, it was very good. It was a cloudy day. And like usual, I sleep during the day and I don't sleep during the night. Let's say I'm an
Really?
all night. Yeah. In fact, it is a little bit strange because everything is closed during the night here. We have no stores, no mall, nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
if I need to go and I don't know, for example, if I need to run errands, I need to put an alarm. Like that, I will wake up earlier and go to do my to run my errands. After that, I could sleep a little bit more after. But I don't really I don't know why. In fact, I don't sleep during the night. That's me. I don't know why. That's it.
No,
But
it's a
yes,
good thing. It's not just you. So you and I say I don't sleep at night either. You know, I wait when it
yeah,
goes dark. I wake up, and I think there's many good things about the night that people don't. Those people who go to sleep that they never get to see. Right? It's peaceful. It's
yeah,
quiet.
I
Ish.
feel
People
yeah.
don't
like I'm in the
respond.
middle of the interview with the vampires.
Man, you're a sleepyhead, Michael. You're a sleepyhead. No, you have no problem telling me at 7:30 at night, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to bed. I'm like, how can you? You know,
Mm.
it's this.
Because I am. I'm sleepy. I gotta go to bed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. But
Yeah.
I'm just seriously wondering, do you guys drink blood?
No.
We're not vampires. We like the peace of the night. That's all it is, right? We like the
Yeah.
peace of the night.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be cautious and I'm gonna go take my garlic now.
You can if you want, but I'm not a vampire. Don't worry for that.
Mm,
I'm a person. I'm a normal person,
mm,
except I don't sleep during the night. That's it. During the night you can see the sky differently, and if you go near to the sea, the ocean, for example, it is very different because during the day you will have images plus the smells plus etc. But during the night you will have to focus on the sounds and the smells, and it's so different, it's so peaceful, it's so wonderful. And when you look up at the sky you see a lot of stars, and it's also wonderful. I
that's
can't
true.
explain you more than that.
Yeah, I think the night is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's as I said, many good things happen at night. So now the power people are awake
Mhm.
and got some ungodly hour, right?
Yeah.
Since we don't
I put
know what
myself
you
in that
guys are
class
talking
because I'm
about, we
awake
can
as
probably
well.
take some pictures. It would be nice to take some pictures and show us what's going on at night.
I will try to do it next time I will go near the ocean. If you want,
Yeah,
I
because I'm
can
pretty sure
show
you
you.
have such a lovely view. And you have
Yeah.
created in me an imagination of a beautiful sky at night above your island.
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
it is well, now it's like it's well worth visiting at, at night.
Yeah.
I don't even want to come at daytime. I wanted to see that at night. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It is a very wonderful place. Hello, Mrs.
So
Dr.
we found
Yvonne.
Dr.
Welcome back.
Yvonne. We found Dr. Now we also found Dr. Curtis. Now the man's a genius. I'm glad you're here, Curtis. Now Curtis, it was hard. Now maybe it's a night hour like you and me, but then the US people are behind us in time. So the evenings, I think Curtis was on a show last night. I'm thinking it's 5 in the morning here, and they're like, it's just going to midnight in the US. I'm like, good for you. It's morning already here, right? The day, the night is gone. So, we have to learn how to live. Sean, welcome, welcome. He says, it's not about discovering or knowing your worth. It's about stripping away the lies that made you forget. That's an important point, my friend. That's a really important point. It's the lies that were told that made us forget who we are. That's a problem that happens during exploitation, and I guess during the that we have with narcissism. Dr. Yvonne, we found you. You
Oh my
you found
God,
your
I
way
don't
back.
know what's going on. We're having a storm here though, where I am.
What, is it a serious one or is it?
I'm close to the Wisconsin border, but I'm actually closer to the lake. So I don't know. That was so weird. I don't know what the impact of my statement was. Can you fill me in?
No, I can't fill you in because so essentially, as soon as you fell off, we've been having fun. So I'm trying to keep the conversation going. So I think that we're about to go to Alavine to share with us the moment when she realized that it was all a lie, when she started calling back her power.
Yes, that sounds good. Hi,
All right.
Elovine.
Hi, Dr. Yvonne. I discovered everything was a lie in 2014. 'But unfortunately, my toxic person had more power than I expected. He used everything to isolated me, and it was for that I spent at least, so it was around 7 years to be able to run away from him, because he had everywhere monkey, flying monkey, something like that. So it was very hard, but I knew from 2014 everything was a lie, and um he was lying to me, and I said from this moment I would find a way. I don't know the cost, but I would find a way to get free, to get my freedom back and my worth back. So that is the year for me. I discovered everything was a lie, and I woke up. So I was, yes. And after that, my healing started at 2022, because I had to find a way to run away, and that exhausted me a lot. So that's it about me. And about selfishness, I used to say, you know, being not taking care of myself is being selfish. That is my point. But not taking care of others is also selfish. And so we need to find a balance between helping others and taking care of ourselves. That is my take about selfishness. So thank you very much for listening to me.
That's awesome. I think that, well, I believe that we all know when we get to the last straw, when we get to that point where we say, it's either now or never. There's that famous saying, "S or get off the pot." I think we all get to that point. For me, when that last straw hit in the relationships that I was in, because some of them it's completely no contact. Um, Others, they were like revolving, you know, because when you really sit down and survey your life and the people in it, you realize why people are in it, and you're not compartmentalizing them or anything like that. You're looking at their actions, not their words. And so once you are like super honest with who they are and who they aren't to you, and what you are to them, and how many of them are actual vampires, and how many of them will actually help you if need be. And it's not to mean that you're only helping people so they will help you. That's not what that means. What that means is you got someone's back, do they have yours? That's what it means. And 9 times out of 10, you're the only person that has anybody's back. So when it's time for you, they've totally forgotten who you are. They don't have time for you. Now, in the case of gaining your freedom, I don't know that people really understand what that means. Um, to the extent where you have to run away, that's severe. That's severe. That's a whole different level of getting to know yourself. And I think that takes, honestly, more time. So I'll wait for a response. Now, this is what I did last time, and then my phone flipped out. So I don't know. Annie, can you grab the mic, or Michael, before I mute myself?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Of course. Trust the tech. The tech will play up every so often, but you know how tech goes, right? When tech does, it does. But you came. You've come back. We will survive. So Mike, Mr. Calm. Anything you want to add? I think. So I love Alavin's point about looking at taking care of ourselves. It can't be selfish, right? Because so, the way I look at it, we must exist for us to keep giving anything to anyone. We can't help anyone if we're not here, and if we don't look after ourselves, we won't be here much longer. What do they say? You can't pour from an empty cup. So we have to learn to nurture ourselves first. Again, the aeroplane, the airline's instructions: put your mask on first before you put anyone else's mask on. This is all part of the same way of thinking, right? If you don't put your mask on, trying to save others is futile anyway, because there is no you, and you can't carry on saving anyone if you have no mask on. So we have to learn to look after ourselves almost at all costs. Not
It's about
not at other people's
reciprocating.
expense. At cost, as go on, Michael, please carry on.
It's also about it's not necessarily just reciprocating. It's about having something that you know you're worthy of to give back or to give, because what do you have that somebody wants or needs? It's actually, you have to that whatever it is that you have to maintain it, you have to add to it, you have to put value into it, and that value that you put into it is something that other people get attracted to or desire. They won't desire it or need it if they don't see any value in it. So it's up to you to maintain that value, not only maintain it, but to build it, expand it, grow it enough such that it can be given away. You find yourself in a position where you can be a giver instead of a taker at that stage. And I'd say that, wouldn't you feel much better to be a giver as opposed to a taker or a receiver, as a person who is interested in fulfilling other people's lives? I think I do. So when it actually comes to it, I have to ultimately maintain myself, and at the same time be capable of looking after myself. Because if I am incapable of doing that for myself, whatever I provide somebody else will be of substandard. It won't fulfill them. It won't nourish them. It'll only nourish them so far, and that's it. Then you have to go seek for more nourishment, or they'll have to go seek for more nourishment. They are not fulfilled. The ultimate goal is to actually fulfill a person so that they can fulfill themselves, a repeatable cycle, so that they can grow enough to fulfill themselves. If you have the capacity to ensure that someone is capable of growing enough to fulfill themselves, then you're actually building a universe. You're actually participating in building a universe. That's the way I see it, from a different perspective, so to speak. Annie, back to you.
I think it's a great perspective to have. So we can't pour into others if we have nothing to pour. If we leave ourselves empty, and in the ideal world, I guess the virtuous circle you just mentioned, we pour into the others. They have enough to them to pour into others, including us. And it's a self-sustaining model, right? So it's a way that we'll move forward.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Instead of
that's
creating a desert, create a forest.
mm, yeah. I hear you loud and clear, my friend. Thank you so much. Always sharing wisdom. So I see Cyrus and Mr. Festus have joined us. Dr. Festus, we'll call him. If that's, I'll do my best to make it stick, Dr. Festus. But we'll come to that in good time, right? Oh, we lost Cyrus. Okay. So Festus, let's try. Let's see whether your tech is working today. which I'm sure it is. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm so sure, but why not, right? Mr. Festus, what's I guess some of your thoughts around narcissistic abuse, and I'm sure it can happen from many different perspectives, whether it's colleagues at work, managers at work, whether it's family members who decide they're going to pick on one of the relatives, or even resort to abuse. Of course it can be partners as well. I'm saying in relationships. So what's your take? Maybe what's your take as a whole, and what's your take about how we reclaim our power once we find a way to escape the situation, whatever that means.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Okay. Talking about narcissist and how to reclaim back power, my opinion will be that after you pass through that experience, you have to understand what it is you went through. You have to name or understand that abuse. I don't know if someone have said that, but you have to understand that abuse to be able to establish a boundaries that protect yourself for future um, occurrence. Because most times the truth is that we are replaying an old pattern. If we don't, in fact, it's easy to replay an old pattern when you don't notice the pattern. If you don't know, like some people go through life and be like, this happens to me, but they don't know how it happens. I used to say something like this. If you said something happened to you, you have to understand what you did that also contributes to that incident. That is one aspect to be able to solve the next occurrence, because when the next one is about to happen, you will know what not to do. But if we focus on the other person, we would not know what to do for ourselves. So if you experience an abuse, you have to understand that abuse, not just the understanding of the abuse, you also need to understand what you did, your own part in the whole process. And I will say this, the truth for the matter is for in terms of relationship, most times we all have a stand, or we have a side that we don't want to talk about, right? The person who is abused in a relationship probably did something. There's a power you gave out. There is an ignorance you put in. There is something you did wrong that gave your abuser the power to actually abuse you. So if you don't recognize those things you did, you will never change the narrative, even if you meet someone. Because the truth is this: people kind of the script about narcissist is developed by certain experiences of life. And sometimes when someone feels like they can step over you and do whatever they want, they might be a sweetheart, but because you gave them certain degree of freedom or power, or you actually acted certain way, the trans should I say the transition into some a version of them that become an abuse, that make them to act abusive towards you. So reclaiming power is all about you understanding that abuse, then knowing how to set boundary for the next your next phase of life. Let me just keep it there.
Yeah, so I think
Thank you.
that I can understand. I think that now some may say you're harsh in saying it must be something we did that maybe I know what you're saying. I know you're not saying enabled, you're not saying cause.
Yeah.
You're saying there's something that we did that contributed somewhat. I don't know. I think that's Dr. Yvonne's mic. I think. Yeah, Dr. Yvonne's mic. And there's something that we did somewhere that somehow, allowed or facilitated the abuse. No, some will say that's harsh, but I think, in honesty, I can see where you're coming from. My friends, even my neighbors who have experienced abuse, their propensity to attract someone similar next time is amazing. I'm always like, how have you got another one that's such a waster? And they keep doing it over and over, and they wonder when it happens again. They're like, oh, I don't know what happened. But I accept your point, Dr. Festus, that we need to be honest with ourselves and see and generally work out what it is we might do differently next time, right? You know, so Dr. Yvonne, I'm sure you have big thoughts on this. Okay.
Well, I don't think big thoughts even, that doesn't even begin to what I have on that. Although everyone has a viewpoint, you know, of how certain things occur or happen. It's beyond my scope. And I'd like to say that I'm Caribbean, and that's half Cuban, half Jamaican. I didn't grow up in the systemic shit that's happening in the United States, but I did grow up here. But my soil was Jamaican, even in this country. I've seen a lot of things, and I've heard a lot of things. And right now, we're living through a lot of shit. And I have been giving back my time to the cause of battered and abused women and children since 1981. I've sat on over 8 boards for domestic violence. It is in reality that violence or domestic violence is not always in the scars you see. Therefore, we come to the aspect of narcissism, manipulation, disloyalty, lies, just indignant shit altogether. When you get into a relationship, no matter the type, but I'm just going to address the male-female relationship because I'm addressing what I believe our guest just spoke to. So I'm just going to address that. I don't even know how anyone could fathom saying that first you have to know what you did in order to not do it again the second time. I mean, serious though? Like, where in history has anyone who has journeyed through, you have children, regardless of the Epstein files and all that shit, you have children. So you're saying that a child that is looking for their parent to nurture, care, and take care of them did something that the next time, they won't get abused. And I'm not talking about spanking, or, correction. I'm talking about abuse. There's a difference. No, sir. I think that you have this a little skewed in more ways than one. And there is no place on earth. And I'm not trying to be indignant. I'm just trying to say, and I'm not trying to say, I'm saying it. What? Like, no. Nobody asks for a person to treat you like they have no soul. There is nothing possibly that you could do short of abuse yourself that could cause somebody else to treat you like shit. And victim blaming is some straight up bullshit. And I have a vast vocabulary, but when someone literally thinks that that is even retrospectively a possibility, is beyond me. That's my answer. And now I'm going to be quiet for a hot second.
So I get a feeling that, you know, if we're talking about kids, children in families, it's hard to say, right, you know, that we have done anything wrong, you know, because abuse to kids, there's not much a kid could have done, right? I think I get a feeling, Dr. Yvonne, that is slightly different to it's a him, you know, in a relationship between two adults, right? That's just my feeling. I'll tell you why in a second. So Mike says, sorry, Mike, I'm trying to get your comment on screen. Don't know what's right. At some point, we need to build from within to withstand the storm outside. So we're responsible to respond from strength rather than react from a less stronger standpoint. So Dr. Yvonne, I think I think the big difference is on the surface, it looks like someone's making a choice to remain in the situation. You know, again, even as an abused child, you know, eventually it dawned on us, you know, not that the abuse was our fault at all, you know, but it dawned on us, we must escape. We must free ourselves of this lunatic called our father, who was never going to be any different and would probably have killed us. It was a choice we had to make, and then one day we refused to ever go back. That's our story, right? And so on one hand, I think especially in Western societies, you know, we can take actions, as Mike says. You know, we can respond in a way that will help us escape the abuse situations. And I'm not saying anything about how that's easy or not, Dr. Yvonne. Of course not. You know, but again, Christiana, welcome. Like Christiana says, sometimes we give the power to others to treat us badly unintentionally. I think that's the point Mr. Dr. Festus is making in that sense. You know, but again, I see many people choose intentionally. You know, so the question to you, Dr. Yvonne, is how comes many don't see the red flags and they choose to put themselves, and I don't know that they choose to, they put themselves back in the same situation.
No, I know that they're red flags. Okay, I'm gonna say we all see the red flags. Um, you know, but a lot of times when we see the red flags, there's so many different phases of love, right? If you're talking about man and woman. And you know, there's always that courting phase. Um, everybody is goo goo gaga, whatever. Then there is that getting to know you phase, you know, where you're being your best self. Then there's the honeymoon phase, you know, then there's reality check, you know, and then there's the building phase. And then whatever comes of that will determine how the relationship goes, right? So you don't just go from A to Z. There are different cycles that you go through in a relationship, especially when it's between two adults. But you see some red flags. Maybe one day they talk to you rudely. Maybe another day, you know, it's a grab. You know, depending on what type of abuse it is. All right, whatever it is, maybe it's a twisting of your thoughts and telling you you're crazy and you know what you just saw, right? Whatever. Um, but sometimes and most times that's not enough to stop a relationship if you're leading with your heart. Not every relationship is transactional. And most people, like I said before, don't get married or get in a long term relationship to leave it. So, yes, Annie, you do see red flags. And oh, why do you keep putting yourself in the same position? Well, there's there's such a thing, called codependence. You could give anything names. It could be just downright love, and it's hard. There's nothing easy about leaving someone you love, even through a lot of the pain. But, sometimes you just have to go through the cycle. Everyone has a different story. And if you call it escape, then it's escape. If you call it holding a mirror up and changing the relationship, then that's what you do, calling back your power. I've given you too much say over my life, my body, myself, my thoughts, even what I eat. I've given you too much power. That part is true. But between a man and woman, you know, depending on how tied up you are in that relationship, you could have a whole life. I've seen people leave marriages of 25, 30 years. Who wants to actually start all over again 25, 30 years in? I don't know anyone that's sane that wants to do that. But at some point, you choose yourself. So, regardless of how you get into it, hindsight is 2020. You're in it now. You made your bed. You're laying in it. Make a decision. But of course, there's red flags.
Alavina, I saw you flash your mic. Please, the mic is yours.
So, thank you very much. I think it is not about what we did to, let's say, to attract someone like this or like that, some bad situation. I think it's about the patterns we had registered inside of ourselves. It is not our fault if, like a child, if as a child we were taught that we have to stay silent, for example, or we have to accept this or that like acceptable. And someone who is an abuser will not come to you and start abuse you at, from the beginning. No, at the beginning they will be very good, like Dr. Yvonne said. This honeymoon phase, etc. You will have everything. First of all, they will study you, your flaws, how you did react, how they can blur little by little every limit, every boundaries you have. After that, when you are, let's say, enough weak, after that, they will start to attack your flaws to make sure you will stay, whatever they do after that. And it is for that, it is very hard to live this kind of relationship. And we don't know they are like that. We don't have something like it's written on their face. Oh, I am a cheater, I am an abuser, I am a toxic person, I am a narcissist. We don't know that, and they know how to play their part. That is the thing. And after, when we already reclaimed our power, I think after that we have to rebuild everything. And first of all, I'm in this phase right now to discover who I truly are and who I meant to be. And I can thank Dr. Yvonne from last time we had a discussion. She gave me exercises to do. um, even if I was not constant, I noticed things, and I noticed that we have what happened to us and emotions, and also our character or personality, and at the end what is left is the energy these people had poured into us, and we have to remove that. And it is hard to remove some oil. When you have a container full of oil and you want to remove every part of this oil inside, from inside to outside, you know water, it is not enough. We need to, um, let's say, to clean it very deeply. We need to pay attention to remove this oil and this negative energy from a narcissistic person is very hard to remove completely after after years from these kind of abuses. You need to redefine um, your boundaries, to discover who you are again. And in my case, through these 3 weeks, I think it's been 3 weeks since last time, I discovered a lot of things. So it's not discovered because I discovered that before, but I reinforced these things I knew about me. For example, I'm a fast learner, and now more and more I'm trusting myself more and more due to these kind of exercises Dr. Yvonne had given to me here. So thank you for that. And you know, w- I don't think it is our fault. I think it is about how we were raised, and it is also about the education we received at school, and it is also about our character beyond our personality, because the personality is our facade, the mask we wear, and our character is our foundation. And a manipulative person will go toward, so beyond our mask, our personality, to see our foundation, to check our foundation, to test them, to block them, to do whatever it's possible to go there and to make you doubt of who you are, of what is your core values, and it is for that it is very hard to understand, because they make you doubt of who you are, and they make you doubt on everything you trust, and they make everyone around you doubting of on yourself, you know and when everyone tells you the same thing, like for example, everyone had told me that, oh, you're lucky, he is a gentleman, at the end I believed them, even if at the beginning I didn't believe that. I know the truth, but I I I, I was alone in front of them. I had in front of me a lot of people, and it is for that we can say it is our fault. I don't think it is our fault. I think it is about a system we have around us, and a system we trust too much instead of trusting our characters, our values, and our principles. That is my thoughts and my take. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Festus, I'll come to you. And I say, maybe I should say this now. Look, this is a two-part event, if in terms of topic, right? So now, look, Dr. Yvonne, Levine, Mr. Festus, you've taken us to where I want to be right now as we head towards now the latter part of our show today, which is the reality that we need to kill our negative self-image that we've come to take on. I don't say that lightly. So when Festus and I, when we're mulling over, it's not what have we done. It's a case of we need to change something fundamentally once we escape to avoid this happening to us again. I think part of that change is to kill the victim negative self-image that we have of ourselves that we'll come to accept from our abusers. I think that's the foundation then for us to build our real selves, our happy selves, our successful selves, our powerful selves. That way, we're less prone to fall into the traps that narcissists set, and certainly, even if it ever becomes a choice, we will make a choice for ourselves rather than falling into a spiral and everything happening all over again. So I'm saying that because we are going to go to Dr. Yvonne eventually for the 5 steps of grief, the 5 steps of death, and the 5 steps of killing our old selves to really find our real selves. Festus, talk to us. I saw you flash your mic, my friend. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Okay, I wanted to speak because when I throw in those words, I know they actually sounded harsh, and I wanted to clear something a bit about it. I I wasn't trying to make people feel like they deserve whatever they have experienced in an abusive relationship. All I'm trying to say is for us to correct, we must look at it from both parties, right? Now, let me say this before I move on a bit. The people who have been abused in relationship, if we take a holistic view of them, we will realize that majority of these people tend to be those are who give away their power or give away themselves or a part of themselves in the name of kindness. These are people that would rather let go of certain things, overlook them in the name of they are being kind, they are being caring, they are being nice, they are being loving. That is why I am always of the opinion that good people don't know how to protect themselves because they are the ones that complain the most about abuse. So, why are good people always suffering in situations like this? It has to do with them doing certain things that they believe is right, but they fail to recognize the implication or the consequences of that thing in their life. I always say this, there is no good and there is no bad. We only have what is beneficial and what is consequential. So whatever you do will give you two results. It's either it is beneficial to you or consequential to you. So if the result you are getting is always negative, you have to go back to what you do or how you are approaching life. So I'm not saying people deserve their abuse. I'm only saying that for you to effectively solve it, you have to recognize what you do and correct it from internally, mentally, like Mr. N has said earlier. Because the truth here is this: the common denominator or the common factor in my own relationship is me. I can only control me. And let's go about, I don't want to really talk much about relationship, even though it's something I've been working so hard on. I have a framework that I developed in that area to solve something like this, but I don't want to get into that. All I want to say here is this. For us to solve problems like this in relationship, let's understand how people really define let's say how people define who is bad or abusive, right? Because some people have developed this idea that they are just living their own life and they don't care whether it's affecting the other person. And some person also has accepted certain things like okay, let's say the current model of most relationship is either you flee it or you endure. That is flaw. I am always of the opinion that that is flaw. You don't teach people to endure abuse, and you don't teach people to just run away because they will still go into another relationship that is bad. Why am I saying that? Because people are operating on certain belief systems, certain scripts that they have written about themselves. We've all seen people who come out of relationship and say, because I suffered abusive relationship, I'm going to do the same to other people or someone else. That is the chain right there. It's something I call the echo effect. It's a continuation. The cycle can only break if somebody sit down and be honest enough to say, I play a role here, and this is what I did, this is what the other person did. Now, if I'm stepping into the next relationship, this is what I'm going to do, And this is what I'm going to remind the other person when such scenario is coming, is replaying itself again. We must learn how to recognize pattern. Otherwise, you can't run away from it. Okay, Dr. Yvonne said something that I love so much. You can't be in a relationship for a long time and decide to quit one day. Nobody wants that to happen. But now you are into it. How do we make it work? We all have to recognize the script that is playing in our brain. I have to recognize what kind of script I have come to obey, and my partner has to recognize the script that he or she has come to obey. That way, we can see the benefit and the consequences of each of those scripts to our own relationship. Let me end with this. Most of the so-called relationship we have is not relationship. We are in there playing selfish game. I want this, the other person said, I want that. We all are dragged on the angle of I want this, you want this, I want this, you want this. Nobody is talking about the relationship. A gardener and a flower, a gardener sacrifices his comfort, his time and everything. He wants the flower to look good. A relationship, whatever kind, whether it's a romantic relationship, business or marriage or whatever, it is the same. We must get to a point where we say this relationship must be saved, and my mentality has to change to make that happen. Your mentality has to change to make that happen. If that if that particular decision is not made, there is no amount of boundary that will solve it. Boundaries to some extent will only make you to run away and get into another form of relationship, and before you know, you have series of relationship that you say, I've been through toxic relationship. So that is my own point of view. Nobody is actually supposed to go through those pain, but to solve it, each and every one of us have to understand what we do, the script we have come to obey, and how to also help ourselves, then help the other person in our life. That is my own take. I don't want to go into my framework because
I love that. One day our friends will learn about your roots framework. If many people don't know, so one of the reasons I truly love when Festus speaks is the fact that he has got, he's got different outlook maybe than some of us. Many of us are on a mission to inspire Africans, inspire and build a better Africa for the next generation. I come at it from the business growth side. My friends many of them come at it from the mindset side. Coach David comes at it from the divinity side, divine purpose side of things. Festus comes at it from the family roots, our family foundations side of things. But you get to learn about its models in good time, my friends. Festus, well said, well said, well said. Look, Alvin, if anyone flashes the mic, I'm obliged to come to you, right? So go for it.
So just real quick, thank you for this point. I agree with you if it's about uh, looking for what we had missed. I agree with that because I did that too when I was into the relationship. But we can do that at the beginning. So with this explanation, I am totally with you. You know, I mean, I understand that we need to think about why and how I ended up like that in order to not repeat it, but not from the beginning, because from the beginning it is impossible, especially when we don't know. So thank you very much, Festus, for this explanation and this clarity you gave me.
Well, thank you so much, Alvin. So Cyrus, I'm going to come to you next. So I want to mention, I see your free CD offer. Does anyone have CDs? Do I have a CD player? I'm sure I do, right? So let me put a comment on screen. So it was Kyan's birthday a few days ago, last week, and if not beginning of this week, right? End of last week. And it says, he's dropped, he's created my Electric Dawn 6-track CDs. Ideally, he wants $10 for it, but his people care inside says you should make it free. So if you want to party like a ninja, like Dr. Yvonne, she's a ninja of life, the queen ninja of life, as you call her, then you can download it from the link. So there's a short link there. Again, if you the link is going to be in our comments, so if you want to go and download it afterwards, why not, right? Why not? Go do it. Mike, I see what you say. Mike says we'll have a choice even when we think we don't. Help is out there. So I'm writing a song for awareness for an organization in the Hudson Valley for Domestic Violence Association or agency that provides shelter, helpline, and so on. You can check out again the Fearless HV.org website to see the organization Mike's working with. So Mike says, one of these days, I need to tell my story from trauma to triumph, from victim to victor. I tell you. I can't wait to hear the story for sure, Mike. Let's go to Cyrus, and then I'll go back to Dr. Yvonne to give us his 5 stages of death, 5 stages of killing our old selves, our negative self-image selves. And then that's the way we're going to build our new selves, right? Mr. Cyrus, what's your take on our conversation?
Hi, Annie, can you hear me?
Perfectly, my friend, perfectly.
Oh my goodness, what a room. What a live event. I've been learning and I've been enjoying myself. Dr. Yvonne, congratulations for creating such a fantastic room about narcissism and behaviorology. You don't see many rooms like this on LinkedIn. You see some, but they turn into echo chambers, and everybody says the same thing, and they all approve each other, and they have a lovely time. It's like just sounds like a hobby. No progress happens in those rooms. But in this one, Alvin, your share was phenomenal. Thank you. And Calm, thank you. Dr. Yvonne, thank you. Everybody, Foster's, thank you. I learned from you guys. I was going to say, to make sure this one won't turn into an echo chamber, I am going to say something that may or may not divide the room. Because if you want to cause change, you shouldn't be afraid of perhaps you shouldn't be afraid of expressing the unpopular belief. Okay, so I'm going to say 6 to 10 people, if you put 100 people in one room, let's say it's a conference room, 6 to 10 of them, between 6 and 10, are highly narcissistic. What does that mean? What I'm trying to say is they have like the high end and serious type of narcissistic personality disorder. They call it the disorder. They call it disorder for a reason, right? So that is something that everyone's talking about, but not many people talk about the fact that 80% of those 100 people in that room are capable of demonstrating narcissistic personality disorder traits. So they are capable. They have narcissistic moments. They do not have the disorder per se, because they have those mild symptoms, as they call it, right? It's like having a serious case of an illness and having a mild version of it, right? So it comes up when it does, right? So one of the things that probably Dr. Yvonne has never seen, or maybe has seen very few of, is narcissistic individuals coming to her saying, "Hi, I'm a narcissistic individual." The thing about narcissistic individuals is that they rarely feel the need to course correct and do something about their illness. They do not feel they are ill. They are aware of themselves being slated in some circles amongst some people, but they struggle to admit that they have those traits, which is really sad, really. And so most of the things that we are doing in rooms like this is that we prepare ourselves, just like Foster was saying, we prepare ourselves to protect ourselves against narcissistic individuals. However, what if we are the ones who are demonstrating those qualities and those traits? Again, as I said before, 80% of those 100 people in that room are capable of are demonstrating those behaviors. So there are a few myths around the subject, like all narcissistic individuals love themselves. No, no. Most of them hate themselves. That's why they hate you. Low-key hate you. Obviously, they're not going to say it in your face. Narcissists are always loud, arrogant, and obvious. No, that's not always the case. Narcissists don't have feelings. Yes, they do, and they are very protective of them, and they prioritize their own feelings over yours. That's one of the things that makes them narcissistic. And sometimes we feel that narcissistic individuals are the enemy. Let's not forget, the process during which a narcissistic individual is created, they are raised in really hostile and unfavorable environments. Okay, they are patients themselves, right? They are very highly destructive. They are awful, and I'm not siding with them. I'm not defending them. What I'm trying to say is to show them for who they are. So, and sometimes people feel that narcissistic people are highly confident, but confidence comes from self-acceptance, and narcissistic people do not accept themselves for who they are, and that's one of the things that makes them narcissistic. So I just wanted to finish on this. If there are people in this room who feel they are not narcissistic, they need to remember there are moments that we all demonstrate those qualities and those traits. And in those moments, we are also the patient. And we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware that our personality and our behavior is suffering, is making someone suffer, and making people suffer is wrong. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I love how you explain the concepts. Dr. Yvonne, you've been quiet for too long. Talk to us.
Well, he's right. He's right on everything, even the generalizations that people make. You know, it is a condition, and that means if it's a condition, there's a spectrum, and we all have tendencies. It's part of being human, um, and sometimes we don't recognize them. You know, except when we're called out. There's always going to be a whistleblower. You know, it might be your kid, or, you know, it might even just be yourself. But there's a spectrum, and everybody does have a hint somewhere, somehow, at some point. Um, we demonstrate it. But that's not what hopefully we're talking about. We're talking about the system where they are honestly psychopathic. And I really struggle to believe they even have feelings, although I'm sure they do, you know, but again, it's feelings for themselves, not for who they're torturing. Um, Now, can people change? Like anything else, if you work at something and you're really true to yourself to want to make that change, of course, you can correct yourself if you really, really want to do that. But then, of course, that means that you have to accept what and who you are and what you've done. And that part is the hard part. Um, but yeah, no, it was eloquently said. And also the doctor, I agree with the explanation that you gave. I think that where it hit me was when it sounded as though it was the person being abused that was to blame. That crossed the line for me, but in the explanation you gave, yes, I believe you are correct. I'm Caribbean, so, you know, one of the youngest marriages I've ever seen is 65 years. Um, come from a long line of those kinds of unions. So it has never been, and in my culture, it used to be really bad if you would get a divorce, and especially if you were a woman petitioning for the divorce. So I don't believe in just walking away from, a relationship. I believe in working for it, and I believe in roles. I have no problem with traditional roles, but there are gray areas to every part of your life. So in both cases, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing today because, and Elavine, of course, um, thank you for speaking again because the first time you came, you thought you weren't going to speak and you ended up really trusting us. That's a big deal. Yeah, so, and I'll just touch on this because I think that, shortly we have to go. But if any of you are familiar with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the author, uh, one of her most famous little short books was called On Death and Dying. And the first time I got my hands on that book, I was losing my grandmother, and I was a senior in college. And honestly, the first time I had actually dealt with death to that level, because she was my best friend in my heart of hearts. And I didn't look at transition the same way I look at it now, So now I know she's still with me because it's just energy. It's an energy change. They just can't be here with us. But in that book, she goes through 5 stages of the process of death. And I have taken those stages in my life as life stages. So, it's the why me, why me, and then the crying and the disbelief. And then it becomes a bargaining, well, if you take this, I promise I'll do that. If you take away this, I promise I won't do this again. It is the bargaining phase, then it's the reasoning phase. I did this because of X, Y, Z, and you go on and you reason with it, and then there's the acceptance. Well, I know that this is what it is, and this is my comeuppance, and I got to get everything in order, and that's the settling. So I've put it all in my life as, endings. They're deaths. Especially when you want to put something behind you and you do not want to pick it up again. Do you want to remember the lessons? Yes, of course, because you don't want to repeat it again. But do you want to remember that feeling, that nausea, the mental jumping jacks you were doing in your head, or mental flips you were doing in your head? No, you don't remember any of that. But you will remember the lesson. So if you look at everything as a mountain, and I heard this a long time ago. So the top of a mountain is the bottom of the next. And that's just how you have to look at your life, especially if you are into ascension, being the best you can be, and being able to give back at your own pace, while creating the life you want to create. So those are the 5 stages for me and how I apply them. And if you want to read the book, again, it's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross on Death and Dying. Back to you, Eddie.
Sorry, I had to find my buttons. Hopefully, I've got those 5 stages correct. As I put in the comments for sure. So I think so this need to kill our old selves, our old self-esteem. So we need to get our negative self-esteem and rediscover our true selves, the selves that we gave away, that we lost in relationship is so important. And I say unless we do that, say we are stuck in a vicious cycle. A virtuous cycle is a good thing. Good things happen all the time in a circle, whereas a vicious cycle is a bad thing because things go wrong, right? Things go wrong at the end of the day. At the end, middle, and start of the circle. So there are a couple of questions I think we might need to look at. So there's one question from Mike. Now, so like I say to you, my friends, this is part 1. We do have part 2 of this calling back your power that we're going to bring back in a couple of weeks. So I'm sure some of the conversation will go back to, we'll rehash some of those conversations, but we have a plan. I guess is more strategies for the next step, really. More strategies. Applying these 5 stages of death, for example, we'll cover. Now, as Mike says, Jesus said in John 15:13, greater love has no man than this, that a man lays down his life for his friends. Squaring that with abuse, is the abuser your friend? Mike says, believe me, I suffered deeply under people who thought they were doing good, but destroyed my self-image, self-identity, and so on. Does that stop me from seeking to show love? Of course not. But wisdom, discernment, and seeking a new relationship with the transcendent guide. So we know with love, guide my interaction in the now. I think what Festus talking about how we can rehash the cycle. I think Alavin's mentioned it as well today. Say help people. So many hurt people don't help people, right? They just don't. We have to find a way to break that cycle. We must. And Dr. Yvonne, this is probably my last question for you today. So Mike says, the question then becomes, what is narcissism cross to abuse? And where does abuse, or where does self-love cross into narcissism?
Is that my question?
Yeah, you're the expert.
The question becomes, where does narcissist cross over to abuse? Conversely, where does self-love cross over to narcissism? Wow. That's like 2 serious extremes. That's so hard to kind of answer, sort of, because even though narcissism is on a spectrum and we all have a little bit of it, abuse is just that. Abuse is the misuse of power over another person, the tormenting, the hurting. That's way different, and that's like literally off the spectrum, an abuser. And loving yourself, I don't know that you could be a narcissist about loving yourself. I mean, I guess you can. Who was it? The flower by the pond, in the Greek mythology. I'm trying to remember. But I'm kind of at a loss for words. I look at abuse completely different than a spectrum on narcissism, unless the abuser, right, which is the condition, is narcissistic, which is the abusive behavior. That's not on a spectrum. He's full or she's full-fledged diseased. So I don't know that they cross over. I really don't. I think we all have a little bit of abuse. I mean, a little bit of the narcissism sometimes, unbeknownst to us sometimes, unless it's pointed out. It could be a character flaw, but it's not hurting intentionally other people. Whereas an abuser is intentionally hurting and making you feel that pain while they delight in it, whether it's hitting or, verbal, whatever it is, they're delighting in your pain. So I hope that answers the question, Mike, because I don't think they cross over at all if you're talking about, everyday people's behavior and actual abuser. That's my take on the question.
I'm trying to come back again. Look, if anyone has a different point of view, you feel free to share now, my friend. Where, when did the crossovers happen? Are they crossovers? No, I don't know. No one is minded to address that issue. My friends, Festus, you're a brave man. Go for it. Let's hear your thoughts.
Okay, that question is really very interesting. I just want to say something. I think narcissism becomes abuse when instead of saying things like I matter, you end up saying only I matter. So in the sense that you become manipulative, you start being taking control of things. And then when self-love cross over to narcissism is when instead of thinking of I am enough, you are looking like I think let me say I am better. You're thinking you are better. So that also takes away certain empathy and humility from how you act, and even it takes away some truth from how you behave. So you are more like you nobody else. Like I think you just cross over that line that draws your attention to empathy and humility, something of that nature. So you're no longer saying narcissism cross over to abuse when you're not saying trying to be manipulative, you're controlling. Um, Instead of saying I matter, you're like only I matter. Then when the other angle, when self-love crosses over to abuse or narcissism, rather, is when you are rather saying instead of thinking you are enough, like you just want to have that boundary that you are enough. You should love yourself and all that. You decide to transfer into that person that says, I am better than anybody else. And I think that's what I would say.
Wow, no, I love that. I mean, you're a good man. You're a good man. So people think deeper than me. I'm always happy to be in the presence of those who have bigger ideas than myself. But a different world, right? Look, thank you so much, Festus. Thank you, everyone that's joined us. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kyan. Thank you, Dr. Lisa. So Christiana, many more people have been Curtis as well. Thank you so much, all of Sean. Thank you, all of you, Sharon Rose. Many more people. That's Nathaniel. So I thank you all for
Thank
gracing us your
you.
time today as well. There's Sean. I met you for the meantime. Thank you, Linda. Of course, can't forget you, Linda. Dr. Lisa. So, all of you on stage as well. Christy, thank you, everyone that spent your time with us. I say that there's two things I'll say. We're going to bring this back again in a couple of weeks, and there's just steps that we can follow. That steps that people follow. Yes, we're keen to sort of explore that part. Let me mute you for a second, Dr. Yvonne, because the interference is a bit much. So the other thing I would say is that I have an event later tonight, where we're talking about what's the word I'm looking for? Empaths. Those people who have, you know, almost undying kindness and compassion. They have unending pots of compassion and kindness. That's what they're essentially empaths. Empaths, Dr. Yvonne reminds me every time, are more prone to being abused in relationships because they could be precisely because they are that kind person, and the other person takes advantage of that kindness, right? The other person wants to extinguish the flame of goodness that the person has, that the empath has. The question I'm asking tonight in my room that's next in a couple of hours is, how do empaths protect themselves from exploitation, from narcissists, from the dangers of people taking advantage of them? So if that excites you at all, if you might have a thought on that, please feel free to join us. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Personally, I have some thoughts, but I don't think that's deep with you. Dr. Yvonne, go for it, my friend.
Yes. Well, thank everybody for coming. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful that you guys spent some time with me, with us. And I'm so glad that you engaged. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope to see you guys again. And thank you, Annie. I appreciate you very much. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Yvonne, as well. You're the star of the show. Mike, we'll pick up the point. Abuse can be unintentional. Oh, I wonder. Yeah, that's a conversation piece for our next room for sure, Mike. So I put it on our list of topics to discuss. So we're going to end with Mike's song that he's created. I mentioned his domestic violence song. His song for the domestic violence agency that he works with. So
Are you at
in the
the
meantime,
airport right now?
I said, do connect with Dr. Eva. Connect with each other, my friend. If you're not connected
Huh?
already, connect with each other.
Yeah,
Connect with
almost. I'm trying to. I'm getting ready to hit the.
I'm going to meet you. Okay. Right, my friends, enjoy your day, enjoy your evening. Hopefully you join us for the next one. I'll send the invites to you. If you can join us, I'll be most grateful. But let's hear Mike's song as we go. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Right. Reach out to be fearless. Let's see how that goes.
Behind closed doors where silence screams the loudest, voices need to rise, break through the shame and doubt. Stand up for the ones who can't speak for themselves. Listen without judgment, help them find their way out. 'Cause abuse is abuse, no matter what the type is, physical or emotional. It's time to recognize this. When the world feels like it's closing in and fear becomes your only friend, don't face the darkness alone. Don't face it alone. There's a lifeline, pick up the phone. Reach out to fearless, they will believe you. Reach out to fearless, they're gonna see you through 24 hours, 7 days, judgment free. Reach out to fearless, break free. You can do it. Crisis counseling and a safe place to land. Support groups waiting with an understanding hand. Legal services, safety planning every day. Therapeutic help to guide survivors on their way. Confidential web chat when words are hard to say. Translation services no matter what language you pray. Learn the red flags, recognize the signs. Constant put downs, isolation, crossing lines. Financial control and technological surveillance too. Stalking behaviors, threats, it's all abuse of you. Knowledge is the power that can save a life. Understanding patterns, cutting through the strife. When the world feels like it's closing in and fear becomes your only friend, don't face the darkness all alone. Face it alone. There's a lifeline, pick up the phone. Reach out to fearless, they will believe. Reach out to fearless, they're gonna see you through 24 hours, 7 days, judgment free. Reach out to fearless, break free. You can do it, building just accountable communities. Teaching our youth about healthy boundaries, stopping the cycle before it starts again, creating awareness in the hearts of women and men. Intervention programs, changing what we normalize, opening our eyes to see beyond the lies. Emergency refuge when there's nowhere else to go. Safe haven waiting, confidential laying low. For every person regardless of identity, race, faith, or status, shelter means dignity. Orange and Sullivan counties help us stand by, a place to heal and rebuild underneath a safer sky. This is not your fault, you deserve to be safe. You have the right to live without fear every day. Don't abandon hope, don't abandon the fight. Supportive relationships free from abuse, are you right? From interpersonal violence to human trafficking, to sexual assault survivors carrying the pain. Freedom from oppression is the mission they proclaim. When the world feels like it's closing in, and fear becomes your only friend, don't face the darkness all alone, face it alone. There's a lifeline, pick up the phone, reach out to fearless, they will believe. Reach out to fearless, they're gonna see you through 24 hours, 7 days, judgment free. Reach out to fearless, break free.